They didn't die because the ocean was too deep. They died because someone believed the rules didn't apply to them. 5 people entered the Atlantic Ocean in a small submersible called Titan. It wasn't a military machine. It wasn't government tested, and it wasn't even certified by the industry that designs deep-sea vehicles. But it carried billionaires, and it carried confidence. Titan was built to do something humans have always feared: go where pressure can crush steel, where sunlight has never touched, where one mistake means instant death. The destination was legendary: the wreck of the Titanic, resting nearly 13,000 feet below the surface. From the outside, the mission looked bold, historic, and exclusive. But behind the scenes, something was deeply wrong. Titan wasn't built like other submersibles. Instead of a hull made entirely of thick titanium or steel, its main body was made of carbon fiber, material celebrated in aerospace for being light and strong but dangerously unpredictable under the crushing repeated pressures of the deep sea. Experts warned about this, not just once, and not quietly. Engineers inside the company, OceanGate, raised alarms. Industry veterans wrote letters, begging for the submersible to undergo standard testing and certification. One expert specifically warned that the experimental carbon fiber hull could fail catastrophically and without any warning. The response they got was dismissive. Rules slow down innovation. Certifications are an outdated system that stifles progress. We're doing something new and revolutionary. And this is where the story gets really uncomfortable. Those warnings weren't just ignored by accident, they were dismissed by design. Because Titan wasn't just a submersible, it was a statement. It was the physical embodiment of a belief that technology, confidence, and enough money could move faster than the fundamental laws of physics and safety. The entire project was a bet against caution. With every dive it made, the ocean was keeping score. Each descent to the deep weakened the carbon fiber hull. Microscopic cracks began to form, invisible to the human eye, spreading like a hidden sickness through the structure. Every single trip down stressed the material, and every ascent left it just a little bit more fragile, a little closer to its breaking point. The ocean was simply counting down. On its final dive, Titan began its descent, just like it always had. Inside, it was calm, quiet, and controlled. The passengers were likely filled with a mix of awe and anticipation. Then, an hour and 45 minutes into the dive, communication stopped. There was no explosion, no frantic distress call. There was no time to react. What happened next took less than a second. At that depth, the pressure is unimaginable. Over 6,000 pounds pressing down on every single square inch. When the compromised hull finally gave way, the ocean didn't just rush in. It collapsed everything instantly. The implosion was so violent and so fast that the human brain couldn't even register it. It was faster than the speed of sound, faster than a nerve impulse traveling to the brain. There was no pain, no fear, just an instantaneous end. And then, silence. For days, the world watched with bated breath as a massive search and rescue operation scanned the ocean surface. Hope lingered on the news and on social media. People imagined the crew waiting in the dark, conserving oxygen. But deep down, the experts who understood the physics of the deep sea already knew the tragic truth. You don't survive an implosion at that depth. There is nothing to rescue. And here's the part of the story that most people miss. This was not some unpredictable tragedy. It wasn't a case of bad luck or a freak accident. It wasn't nature being cruel. This was a catastrophe that had been foretold. It was a warning that had been delivered loud and clear, multiple times, by the most qualified people in the field, and it was deliberately ignored, because the ocean doesn't negotiate. The deep sea doesn't care about your confidence, your wealth, or your grand vision for innovation. It only respects physics. The laws of pressure are absolute and unforgiving. Titan wasn't destroyed by the sea. It was destroyed by a belief that the rules of safety, engineering, and caution exist for everyone else. And that is the real danger here. It's not the deep water. It's not the immense pressure. It's the moment we, as humans, convince ourselves that limits no longer apply to us. It's just the hubris of thinking we can outsmart the fundamental forces of the universe through sheer willpower and a disregard for established knowledge. Because if our technology keeps advancing while our humility and respect for boundaries disappear, then the story of the Titan won't be the last warning. It will just be one of the first that we chose not to learn from. If stories like this change the way you see technology, risk, and the human decisions that shape our world, subscribe for more real stories behind the headlines. Thanks for watching.